Ladies and gentlemen, this is Johnny Good Times.
It's the sound of Philadelphia.
Oh, this is Greg.
And we are excited to have, we tend to gravitate toward people whose resumes don't look like anyone else's on earth.
Right.
And I think we've got one of the gentlemen with us here tonight. We have got a man who is a detective, a rapper, and a stand-up comedian. Please.
He also sings.
And
Oh, man.
And he hosts a podcast too, I think.
Yeah.
Jack of all trades, Lawrence Arnell. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, well,
What's up,
bro?
All right. What's up,
Thanks
fellas?
for doing this, man.
You forgot the air quotes around sings.
Nah, man, go ahead.
hey man, we
intensive.
can put that on demonstration.
Oh, Lord. What's going on?
Not much. So excited to have you here with us tonight. And I mean, I don't even know where to begin when you've got such a diverse resume.
Right?
What came first, rapping or detective work?
Oh, I've been rhyming since I was about 9 years old. They don't let you be a detective that early, so that by default, the rap stuff came first. That's my first love.
Mm-hmm. And you had you were in a group called the Deadly Snakes that had to deal with Tommy Boy in what, 96, 97?
Yeah.
Oh,
We were
nice.
one of the first groups from this area to have a major record deal. Like, we lost our deal before everybody else started getting
Everybody else
major
started hating
deals.
Tommy Boy.
Yeah, there's plenty to hate, but they gave us an opportunity. We did the best we could with it.
How did that come about? How did you guys start a group and then that quickly get signed by Tommy Boy?
It was we were all pretty much doing our thing like independently at the time. The Deadly Snakes was actually made up of a couple of different groups. I was rhyming with a cat named Bump J, who also ended up being a member of Major Figures.
Mm-hmm.
We were Children of the Corn. His older brother Mark and his homie Yanti, they were the Hunters. They had a tremendous following on the underground back in the day. And what happened is we met a guy named Set Free, who is originally from the Bronx, and was kind of like, he came up under Prince Paul. And Prince Paul was working with Tommy Boy at the time with the Grave Diggers, and Paul walked us into Tommy Boy. We all kind of meshed together, and we were sort of modeled after Wu-Tang Clan at the time. Big group. It was about 6 MCs in the group, and just trying to do something different than what was going on at the time. And Paul liked our stuff and walked us into Tommy.
Did y'all have wild names like the Wu? Like, what was were you like?
We all had snake names. I was the Diamondback, which I think is still one of the dopest rap names I've ever had. I probably should have just kept calling myself Diamondback.
Yeah.
I was Diamondback. My man Yant was King Cobra. So everybody had a snake name.
Nice.
Were you guys getting any love from Roughhouse at the time? Because they were like competitors with Tommy Boy back in the day.
We didn't, like I said, we were one of the first groups to get a deal, and we didn't really go through like local channels. I mean, we literally, like, we went up New York and went to a New York label with New York peeps. You know what I mean? So, and Roughhouse started signing groups, but we had already been signed. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think the Figures did some work with Roughhouse.
Yeah. They did like Rough Nation. Yeah.
Right, Rough Nation. Right, and even that was after we had been made moves and signed and released and dropped and all of that. Yeah.
So after the initial deal fell through, where did that leave you? What were you thinking? Like, I'm done with this music shit. I'm gonna figure my life out, or?
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Is that how you ended up at the police academy?
Nah, that's so much further. I've only been a cop for about 10 years. This was over 20 years ago, all of this stuff. I basically what happened is I did spend a little bit more time kind of focused on music after that, but for the very most part at that time, I was like I said, we were a pretty big group. It was like seven members, 6 MCs and DJ. And I was the youngest one at the time. I was 19. And I had no real influence or impact on like the decision making processes and all of that stuff that was going on with that. So it was kind of like I got signed, we got put on, we did some stuff, and then we got dropped. And I never really felt like I had any say. And it kind of soured the whole experience for me. And I never, like to this day, I've never like put any serious focus on being a professional recording artist again. It's like I felt like I'll just do what I do. I'll enjoy it. In the meantime, you know, I mean, I've been involved in records that have Billboard charted. You know what I mean? Just as a result of just kind of like falling back and making music with my peoples when I get the opportunity. But I never put any serious focus on being a professional recording artist.
And so you got burnt out early on kind of the bullshit behind the scenes.
Mad early, yo. It's I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I may have shortchanged myself, but it was a very conscious decision. It was a very conscious decision to just kind of like, I'm not gonna put myself in that. I'm never gonna leave my security in the hands of a record label or a listening public. It never appealed to me again after that.
So when did the decision come to go into detective work? Where did that come from?
That was that came as a result of really just spending time around cops. I got into, well, shortly after that whole thing, I was saying about 2003 or 4, I started getting into motorcycles real heavy. And I mean, everything like down to learning how to race motorcycles, like the whole deal. I was a biker boy, you know what I mean? And what you find when you spend time in that motorcycle community is a lot of cops ride bikes. So I found myself spending time around cops in their own personal time and getting to know them and finding out what the job was really all about just by socializing with them. And it really piqued my attention because I've always been, I mean, as you could tell by my resume that y'all read off, I have a lot of varied interests and I get bored with shit real quick. So it was the police work appealed to me mostly because I could do any one of like 100 jobs without ever having to start a whole new career. I mean, just in the 10 years that I've been a cop, I've worked in 3 of the wildest districts in the city. I was a member of the highway patrol. I was a boot cop. You know what I mean? I have escorted the president and prime ministers from other countries, and now I'm a detective, and that's just all like in the last like 10 years, and I still got, you know, I could be doing this for another 20, 25. So that's where that came from. It basically came from something I think more people should do, is spending time around police officers and finding out who they are and what it's really about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, it's fascinating that you're involved with hip hop, which is, you know, I mean, at least sort of the stereotype is very anti-cop.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're also involved in detective work. I mean, how do you handle that sort of juxtaposition? Because if you're in hip hop, I'm guessing you're also interacting with people who are not fans of cops.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That's an understatement.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I don't handle it like it's a juxtaposition. If you spend any time, I mean, in the past few years, I have released some music. Like I said, I have not really put a lot of focus on like trying to like blow up musically or anything, but I feel like I have put out the best music of my life, like in the most recent years. But if you listen like to my solo album, Beast of Brethren, um, if you pay close enough attention to the lyrics, you'll find that I'm often rhyming about being a cop. You know what I mean? But it's just a question of doing it in a way that is appealing to, you know, a traditional hip hop listener's ears. So I don't handle it like it's a juxtaposition. It's just that this is the lifestyle that I rhyme about. I actually find myself deeper in the trenches and more involved in the shit that's going on that most of these rappers rhyme about.
Right.
I'm
Yeah,
in
right.
the street. I don't see y'all.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, right,
I don't
right,
see
right.
y'all. It's like
Right.
it's funny. I remember one time when I was working down North Philly, me and my homies, me and my squad, we were working the street, and we ended up the two cops I was working with tried to lock this kid up, and he actually like he bailed on him. You know what I mean? He beat feet, and they went into a whole foot pursuit and the whole thing. And they, you know, he got away. You know what I mean? God bless him. He got away. But like later on that day, we found out that he's a rapper. So now we found his YouTube channel and we watching his videos, and it was all this gangster shit. All this gangster shit he was talking, like ridiculous. I'll kill a cop. I'll do this. I'll do that. Da, 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 da. But we were still on the block. He wasn't outside anymore. You know what I mean? But so that's what I mean. It's not really a juxtaposition to me. It's just that that's my position in the community, and I have to find it interesting and entertaining ways to discuss who I am. The same way, you know, the drug dealer rapper got to talk about himself, and the businessman rapper got to talk about himself. You got to find a way to make yourself interesting enough for people to listen to.
We've
Do they hate?
you and I over the years have definitely had these discussions and debates about, you know, police brutality and the things that we see it from the outside. Give us your perspective from someone that's on the other side of the fence that's actually in it.
My perspective is that uh, a dirty cop is actually just a criminal with a good cover. Um, no cop who has any respect for himself, for the badge, and for the job that we do is involved in anything that you would want to consider dirty. And those cops don't do that stuff around us. You understand what I'm saying? It's a very very uh, it's a tough thing to address, because a lot of stuff that people see on TV, uh, that you may be instantaneously inclined to assume is brutality, is just an ugly ass job that has to get done. Um, it never ever looks good when a cop got to put his hands on somebody. I don't care what happened. There was a video circulating a few last week and the weeks before of this cop on the ground. I don't even know what town he was in, but the cop was like on the ground and he looked like he was like pounding on the dude. Cars are riding by, somebody was filming it, and this cop is literally on top of this dude in the street doing this thing. And for weeks, that was the only video we saw of it. And then like a couple of days ago, there's a video of that cop and that dude literally standing up, squared up like this. And the bull coming at the cop. Come on, coming at the cop. When that video came out, all the other videos stopped airing. I haven't seen any of them since. You see what I'm saying? So
Right.
a lot of times what looks like brutality is simply somebody having to do a job that nobody wants to do. You understand me?
Right.
But in cases of actual brutality, I for one can say that one of the reasons that I became a cop is because I've always felt like I had my head on my shoulders. I've had a lifetime of making good decisions, and being the person that everybody needed around in a situation. And I felt like if I could do that professionally, I could actually have some sort of impact on my community. What I will say is that no cop has ever committed an act of brutality in my presence. And as long as I'm around, then I can actually impact that and prevent it from happening. And most cops that I know feel the same way. Dirty cops don't do dirt in front of clean cops. It just don't happen.
Yeah. And you spoke on that before about wanting to impact your community and having a good head on your shoulders and being someone that can make a difference. Why do you think more people like yourself don't get involved with becoming, if not a police officer, someone with, we spoke city council, things that can really make a difference?
Public perception is stronger than any drug you could ever think of. We come up in communities and police officers are not respected. They are assumed. There are people out there who actually assume that the majority of law enforcement officers are dirty. The numbers are just so far against you. Like the numbers just don't add up. I carry a Glock 21, it's a 45 caliber handgun. It holds 14 rounds. I walk around every day with 40 rounds of ammunition. If I ever wanted to commit a murder spree, I got my chance. The numbers are against you. For cops to be out here with that sort of power, for everyone to assume that 90%, 9 out of 10 cops is there, that's crazy. It's just madness. You know what I'm saying? But that's what we get from the media. It's what we get from our social media. And in the communities where we grow up, when you are taught so far in the opposite direction, those guys are the enemy. You're a sellout if you become one. They're all dirty. Even if you go in clean, they'll turn you into a dirty one. And we believe our people before we believe anybody else. I had no interest in becoming a cop until I started hanging around some and finding out that, some people that I trust with my life are in law enforcement, and there's really no reason to believe that I couldn't go into that field and do a good job and be a good person as well. I believe that we need to, as law enforcement officials, it's our responsibility to share our humanity. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so open, why I have no problem speaking in formats like this, why my Facebook is open and my Instagram is open, because I need people to see that I'm human. Right. I'll go and I'm a cop, but yeah, I got no problem making fun of myself or anybody else. I do stand-up comedy. I've rapped. Here's my life story. I'll never lie to you. I believe that it's on us to show people that if we want people to come and join us.
Do you think that you being an African-American cop, that maybe you don't see, or maybe certain Caucasian cops may act differently when you're around than they might not when they're around all white cops?
Listen, this is America, bro. Like I don't put that past anybody.
Right.
What I will say is this: two things. One, I don't care who you is when I ain't around, especially when it comes to taking care of the public. You know what I mean? If you got issues with people in the inner city communities and these minority communities and whatnot, you got issues with them. However you handle that, you have to square that with your God at the end of the day. But when you with me, you're gonna do what we supposed to be out here doing. I've literally had to tell a cop one time. I worked with this one cop out of Southwest Philly, and I had to tell him after riding around with him for like a day, we were going to be riding together all that week. I literally had to tell my man, like, yo, don't talk to nobody else. Just don't address the public while we're working together. I'll talk to people, because he was reckless with his mouth, and I was going to get myself in trouble if I kept letting him do that. And he
Right.
shut up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He shut up. He did the right thing. He shut the fuck up. And that was that. So I have no problem putting a cop in check, because I ain't got no problem going back to driving the truck. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm cool with all of that. The other thing I'll say is that I have been working in the toughest neighborhoods in one of the toughest cities in the world for 10 years now. I've worked side by side with cops from every race and culture you can think of. And I've literally seen more white cops in minority neighborhoods run toward the sound of gunshots and toward the sound of screams than you can even possibly imagine. I'm talking about 10, 15, 20 times a night. New Year's Eve, pop, 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 pop. White cops down north looking for the shooter. Not like, fuck these cats, I don't care what happened to these people around here, or running in the other direction. Literally running into the shit as if because it don't matter what color the people are. This is what I mean when I say that people have the impression that the majority of cops are dirty, or the majority of cops are crooked and don't care about the community. It's just the math simply doesn't add up, because I watch these guys put their lives on the line every night. White cops in black neighborhoods grabbing, shooting victims, getting bloody, putting them in the cars and racing them to hospitals. This is real life. This is real life, not your average cell phone video that only shows the aspect that the person who shot the video wants you to see.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful.
Yeah.
What's when you talk about being in tough neighborhoods and us seeing only kind of what the short, grainy cell phone videos are, what's something that people just completely misunderstand beyond what you're talking about now? Like when people look at, people have their own kind of belief about what cops are, and especially over the last 10 years, what are any other misconceptions that people have?
I think the biggest one is that all cops are on a power trip. In the grand scheme, we all humans, and it's nothing for somebody to power trip in a moment. And I'm sure there's a certain segment of the population that is just trying to make up for getting bullied in high school and so forth. But what I'll say is this: it's a very, at the end of the day, it's an easy job to lose. Philadelphia Police Department, we have Lodge 5 of the FOP, one of the strongest unions in the world. And they do a very good job of protecting us. But at the end of the day, internal affairs is a real thing. It's a very, very real thing. And it's not in any cop's interest to be out here in the street trying to be more than they really are, power tripping on people, because they take that very seriously, especially in this new age of kind of gentler policing, community-oriented policing, social justice reform, and so forth. Most cops are not out in the street power tripping. For the very least reason is that it's a very easy job to get in trouble doing. But the main reason why I feel like that's not true is because it's just a really good job. And most people come into this because of the opportunities for advancement and the incredible benefits and the chance to go to school and the chance to help people in your community. Like, the vast majority of cops that are on the job are in it for all the right reasons. But, you got a ticket that one day from that one cop who wasn't trying to hear that you just had to take a shit. You know what I mean? And now all cops is power tripping. I think that's the biggest misconception.
Has anyone ever said that to you when you pulled them over?
Man, listen, people have said everything.
All right, let's hear some.
People have said everything. I've heard everything. Why don't you stop a real criminal? Well, they're not wearing signs. So I eliminated you from the pool. I'll move on to the next one. Yeah, people, there's no limit to what people will say to you.
Hey, so I have a question. You say it's a hard job to lose. So I see it on TV and movies constantly. There's always the one detective who's an alcoholic, who's rogue, who's always in eternal affairs. He's always on the outside. Is that a real thing? Does every department?
Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, does every department have these guys, these
Oh
detectives?
no, what's his name in The Wire? McNulty.
Yeah, exactly. Have you seen it? Are they everywhere?
Nah, man, that's not a thing. That's not a thing. Now, I'm not saying it wasn't a thing in the 80s, right? I'm not saying it wasn't a thing in the 90s, right? And it probably was. All right. Back before everything was computerized, and before, the law enforcement community also believed that it had a social responsibility. In the 70s and 80s, man, they would bust their guns, and if they missed, you got away. We gotta go back to headquarters, get some new ammunition. You know what I mean? I gotta write a book if I shoot at somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not. Things are so different now. So I'm not saying that those guys aren't inspired by something that may have existed in the past, but today, nah, it's not gonna fly.
You haven't had to go to the bar and drag a partner out. He's grabbing a couple whiskeys. Be like, come on, man, we gotta get out of here.
Nah, man, that's not. You know how famous we would be, bro? We would be so famous because as soon as we walk in the bar with the uniforms on, everybody's cameras coming out. Who's slamming shots in that situation? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's what I mean. It's just like people only show you. You're only ever. The job is actually really boring. 90%. It's really boring. I mean,
I remember the one of the writers or co-creators of The Wire was saying, like, he was a cop for 30 years and he drew his gun maybe 3-4 times.
Maybe. You know what I mean? I've never fired my gun on duty. I've never had to shoot anybody. I've been shot at, but I've never had to shoot anybody. I've had plenty of opportunity. You know what I mean? But I mean, smart cop know how to keep himself out of a certain situation. There's always that calamity that could happen, and that unknown variable. Some things are genuinely just a surprise, but I've always taken a lot of pride in being very aware of my surroundings and knowing what I'm going into before I go into it. And that's served me well in my career. Now, I go to work tomorrow night, who the fuck knows what happens? You know what I'm saying? So far, knock on wood, everything's been going my way.
Well, how do you keep your cool if somebody's fired at you? I mean,
you can't keep your cool if you're getting fired at. I mean,
right?
Nah.
Yeah. Well, what's your mindset? What's your mindset? You've been fired at. What are you thinking?
The first thought is find some cover. First of all, the situation where I got fired at, I had cover, and the rest of the cops who were with me, we all had cover. So as long as I got cover, I got time to make a decision. But the way you keep, honestly, I didn't find out till later that people were really paying me any attention, but I kept cool by cracking jokes. I was literally telling jokes under fire, like, you know what I'm saying?
It was like an 80s cop movie. It was like a buddy movie.
It was very much like, according to the guys who were on the ground with me, it was very much like an 80s cop movie. I was literally out there like cracking jokes and shit, trying to fucking keep everybody cool.
Right.
It really is just a question of preparation. I mean, I'm from North Philly, so I'm no stranger to, shit popping off and breaking out at the last minute. And I mean, again, all of those instincts have served me well. But in a situation where you're getting shot at and trying to keep you cool, it's not a question of keeping you cool. It's a question of being of figuring out how to be safe above all else. You know what I mean? Because there's nothing cool about getting shot at, but you have to find a way to make sure that you're safe and everybody else around you is safe. It's really every night is different, man. Every night is different, and I love it. To be totally honest, it's the only thing I've ever done that I love more than music. Is law enforcement. I love every bit of it. I would go through those nights every night if I had to, if it was called for.
So what's it like right now in the middle of a pandemic? Still having to go out there and be in the mix, so to speak, where everybody else is kind of, we're all hiding out.
It's the same. I wish more people were hiding out. You know what I mean? I wish more people were in the house chilling, not getting robbed, not robbing each other. It's sad, man, because the crime stats are actually on the rise. Violent crime is up. Commercial burglaries and stuff are up. Robberies, shootings, the homicide rate, everything is up. And
people are burglarizing homes when everyone's home right now.
Not so much residential burglaries, but like commercial burglaries, because all the stores are closed.
Right.
Everything's closed. So technically, if you commit a burglary while people are home, at this point, we might call it a home invasion. So, but more commercial burglaries and stuff are up. Everything is just so crazy to me. My biggest issue that I face throughout all of this is frustration. Because I'm not overwhelmed. I mean, the job is the job. I get paid for however long it takes to figure stuff out. My biggest thing now is frustration, because it's like I get they come to me with a report of a robbery. I got a victim in the hospital, and crime scene that stretches 3 blocks and all this other stuff. And it's just like, why are y'all even outside? Like, that's the first thing. Yeah. It's like, why are y'all even outside? And why are y'all doing this to each other? I'm disheartened at crime now. More than anything else, I'm disheartened by it. It's frustrating, and it's tiring.
How do you stay out of? How do you prevent from becoming depressed? I mean, I'm sure you see things that the rest of us, kind of don't ever have to deal with. You deal with them. I've known some people that were cops, and I know that's the job. How do you keep yourself from?
I used to struggle with treating jobs as though they had happened to me. Even when I was in patrol, like if I had a nasty car accident, overturned vehicle, people got to go to the hospital and everything, it was just like, oh my God, like, why do I have to do this? As if my car had flipped over, you know what I mean? So the first thing I have to do is to pull myself out of it from that standpoint, and realize that my job today as a detective is mostly just getting information and transferring it into proper systems. So for the most part, all I have to do is talk to people, write the shit down, and send. That's what I do. When it comes to, if I got a crime, I actually really got to go out and investigate, and that is what it is. But the very most part of what I do now is just transferring information. As far as the things that I see, I don't know. I've never really been heavily impacted by, seeing the things that I see. I see a lot of death. I see a lot of people physically hurt and losing things. But that was never really my issue. I never really had a problem with that. As far as combating depression, I don't care what career you're in. I don't care what you do. You have to find something that you love to do outside of it that you can do almost blindly. See, I got no problem finding shit to do.
Obviously.
Yeah, I got no problem finding shit to do. I gotta shoot a video, make a beat, sing a song. My kids are upstairs right now baking a cake. I was in the kitchen with them. We was all standing around the mixer. Is that creamy enough? Yeah, I think that's cool. Yeah, let's go. We always got something. I always have something to do, and it's actually really been a saving grace, especially in this time. I mean, like I have a studio, I have gear. I always have something that I could pour my mind into that I don't have to think of. That I'm not thinking about everything I gotta go do when I go back to work. And I recommend that for anybody in any career. Just find something, needle point, you know what I mean? Anything that you can pour yourself into.
Yeah, let's talk. You've moved on to comedy from hip hop and detective work. How did that? What was that? Was that the way to blow off steam?
Nah, comedy came to me kind of as just a new frontier, really. When I made detectives, I had spent so much time working when I was in patrol. I was literally working 6 days a week for 7 years. I was just working all the time. And what I found when I made detective is that I don't work my days off as much. There are days I go to work and I end up being at work for a long time, but I don't work my days off. So I genuinely have 2 days off a week, pretty much every week. And that for me was a shitload of time, a lot of fucking time. So I learned how to shoot video. I started to learn how to shoot video, take pictures and stuff. And in the process of wanting to, make good videos, I had to start learning how to write stuff. So I started doing these little 1 minute man listen videos. And my goal was to do like a 3-act story in 1 minute. So I started learning how to, write little 1 minute jokes, get the whole thing up on Instagram, the whole deal. And some of my homies who happen to be comedians were like, yo, you're pretty funny. Like, you should come out and try to do a little bit of stand-up. All right, whatever. So I went out to a few shows and checked a couple of them out. And my man Mike Salvi actually got me on stage one night. I went on up and I had some stuff I had written down. And I went up there and I got a laugh. And the rest was hopefully history.
You got bit by the bug, huh?
It's a lot of fun, man. It's a unique unique craft.
Yeah.
Having rapped and sang.
Stop doing that, man.
Right. One thing I can say that's different about comedy is you cannot do it without the audience. When it comes to stand-up comedy, you can't do it without the audience. If you rap and your crowd's not feeling you, you got your music going on behind you, you just feel yourself. You know what I mean? Listen, I can close my eyes and do this. I don't need y'all to feel me to do this. I can't hear y'all no way. Mm-hmm. It's not like that with comedy. Yeah. Like if you don't have an audience to give you back, it's the only art form that I've experienced that is a constant, continuous exchange of energy, like for the whole time. Right. And it's definitely unique. It's been a lot of fun to practice, and honestly, I personally think I'm getting pretty good. But it's been a lot of fun. Even if I'm not, it's still a lot of fun.
I want to because you seem really confident about the comedy. You seem very confident about the rap. You seem very confident about being a detective. And then I've seen other interviews with you, and it comes to singing, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm not that good.
I'd love to find a video of him singing and play that right now.
No, I don't. You know why? Because I don't. The singers I grew up listening to and have been inspired by, the people that I most genuinely enjoy, especially when it comes to singing, I would never put myself on their level. So I wouldn't call myself a singer because I grew up listening to Bill Withers and Stevie Wonder. Like, I wouldn't embarrass myself by saying that. I have no problem putting myself on any level with any rapper. Any rapper, I don't care. Because at the end of the day, I'll tell you, and I'll tell you why. The number one reason why is because I don't care how good you are. I came up in an age of having to keep it real, and I believe that I am more honest, more real lyrically than any rapper that I know. Almost out of necessity, I can't lie. I can't make shit up because there's affidavits out here with my name on them.
Right.
And I have a paper trail, so I can't be walking around talking about being a gangster or doing some shit that I didn't do. I don't have that privilege. So at the very least, I feel like whatever I go into, whatever record I'm on with somebody else, any other MC standing in front of me, I know that I have that. I have that much going for me. So I put myself on the stand with any MC. But I wouldn't say the same thing about being a vocalist.
You know, that energy exchange you're talking about's been so evident right now with, I don't know if you've seen Stephen Colbert live by himself, where that Tom Hanks opening monologue on SNL.
Yo, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like Seth and all of the late night guys, even I think John Oliver is doing the best with Last Week Tonight, but he's only got to do it once a week.
All right.
He only got to do it once a week though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but it's so hard, trying to watch guys tell jokes and nobody. It's like, and these guys have been doing this for decades. They've been doing this for decades, and they're sitting there like, this is weird.
Yeah, I'm begging for a laugh track. Give us a laugh track at this point, man.
Something. I don't think anybody would be opposed to that. I don't think anybody would object to that.
Have you had to deal with a heckler at all yet?
You know what, man? One of my the last show we did a show February 27th for my birthday. My crew, Ha Ha for Hire, we've been doing this show once a month for like a year now. We just kind of like decided that, you go out to open mic. I don't know if people notice this much about stand-up comedy, but it's hard to get on stage a lot of times, especially when you first starting out. When you want to do open mics and whatnot, sometimes you go in, you sign a list, you're the first one there, and you don't go on the mic till 1:30 in the morning. Right. And that shit get old real quick. So we decided to just start throwing our own show, because at the very least, if we did a show every month, we know we have a situation that we control where we can get on the mic and do what we want to do, no matter what. You know what I'm saying? So we did a show on the 27th. It was actually the last show we got to do before the shutdown. And it was in honor of my birthday. So there was a lot of people in there from my job, my family, and one of my old partners was in there. And he decided to heckle me, not realizing that he had put on 20 pounds since we worked together. I tore that ass up. So to date, I've only been heckled once. I feel like I handled it well. And I'm, hopefully I'm prepared for the next time it goes down.
You ain't wearing a piece while you're doing your set, are you?
I always got a gun on, bro.
Oh yeah, who's gonna heckle you, man? Come on.
Hey, listen. Hey, you gotta use what you got to get what you want. You know what I mean? I don't carry. I've never like open carried on stage or anything like that. I've never like worn my gun so other people could see it. But I don't have any problems.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not funny.
It's like mid-July.
You ready to laugh tonight? You ready to laugh?
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if that factors into people deciding not to heckle me or whatever, but I'll take it. I'm cool with not getting heckled for whatever reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, do your coworkers, your guys, is everyone aware of all the things that you do, and do they support them, or do you have some people that, like, especially dealing with the crew that we rap with, a lot of stuff is off the wall?
Yeah.
Have you had any back from that?
I never had a problem. Most of the people that I work with, I mean, like I said, because I'm very open on my social media. I'm very open in my content. I don't hide anything. I don't try not to, let people know what I'm doing. So, I mean, my coworkers come out to my comedy shows. I did a show at Voltage one time, and my squad came out, watched me perform. That was rap music. You know what I'm saying? Most of them don't really know too much about underground rap, so they don't really know they don't know who Army of the Pharaohs is for the most part. But when I drop a record, I come into work and it's like, yo, man, that joint was actually pretty good, man. I actually get a ton of support like that. When I dropped my album, Beast of Brethren, I mean, I was getting hit up from every which angle, text messages, people down at court, and I dropped my man listen videos, little sketch videos and stuff I do online, and my coworkers have been very supportive. They've been very supportive.
That's what's up.
Like I said, man, they just regular folk, man. They just regular folk. I swear to God, man, these cops are just regular people. It's not like they all walk around with their hat on, saluting each other at home and shit. They just regular people. And yo, I listen to the hardest, most gangster rap music in the world on the way to work. Yo, you ever see the memes where they're like, yo, this is me on my way to office job.
Right.
Drum music. I see I move more keys on the way to work, and my commute only like 7 minutes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But that's most of us, man. That's most of us, and we all need some way to let our hair down. We live real life when we get home, just like everybody else.
Right. All right, we want to take it to the blunt.
Let's go.
All right.
So this is rapid fire questions, L.
Oh shit! Hold on,
rapid fire questions, rapid fire answers.
You can't go running for cover here.
Yeah, right. I ain't got my gun on me neither. Shit.
We caught you. Who was your childhood actress crush?
Actress crush, Lisa Bonet.
Okay.
Favorite bike that you've ever owned or ridden?
2003 Yamaha R1.
Favorite comic book hero?
Wolverine.
If you were a wrestler, what would your entrance music be to the ring?
Oh shit, Annie Up.
Out of all,
there it is. Nice.
Outside of being a police officer, all your other disciplines, comedy, music, shooting videos, all that, podcasting, you only can do one for the rest of your life. Which one is it?
Podcast.
Yeah. If you could be a Star Wars character, which one would it be?
I don't know shit about Star Wars. Fucking Luke. He's a man, right?
What's your karaoke song?
Oh damn! Oh, you're never gonna get me to karaoke.
What? You're
never gonna get me to karaoke.
Again with the singing. Again, this
right, push up your lighter by the Roots.
I'm a good second. I'll never sing karaoke. Yeah, no,
I'll do Black's verse. I'll do Black Thought's verse from Push Up Your Lighter.
It's a beautiful summer night in the city. Where you at?
In the house. The city wild, bro. Especially on the beautiful nights. The city crazy.
It's a beautiful summer day. Do you wear sneakers or flip-flops?
Oh, sneakers.
Right. You never know when you got to run.
Yeah, I don't play that shit, bro.
Yeah.
Where do you get your hoagies?
Regis.
Oh, nice.
Back good. On the boardwalk, games or roller coasters?
Roller coasters all day till I'm sick. Absolutely. Yeah.
Are you a robe or a towel guy?
I'm a towel guy.
Desert Island. What's your album?
Oh, one album? Oh shit. Brown Sugar, D'Angelo.
Aside from me, who's your favorite Pharaoh?
Oh man, my favorite Pharaoh.
You don't have to go off music either. It can be like as you like them as a person.
No. Well, as a person, is you. The rest of them are fucking scumbags. But besides you, I would say
scumbags.
Who'd you say?
I would say V-Zilla. Yeah,
V-Zilla.
Which TV or movie detective character would you like to have played?
Oh man, Mike Lowry. with that fucking Ferrari and shit, the fly ass Porsches and whatnot. Yeah.
What would be? You've had all these jobs. What would be your absolute dream job?
Motorcycle racing, like MotoGP, Grand Prix racing.
As short as you can make it, your best advice on sustaining a successful marriage or relationship.
Ooh, marry your best friend. Absolute best friend. Friendship will save love's ass every day. It'll do it every time. Yeah.
Outside of love advice, what advice would you give 18-year-old Lawrence?
Marry your best friend.
I think we gotta end with that one.
Yeah, real shit.
Drop your socials, all that. Where can they find you?
Oh man! All right, so I'm on Instagram at the Lawrence Arnell, Facebook at Lawrence Arnell, Twitter at Lawrence Arnell, LawrenceArnell.com. Check out my website. I got tons of videos and stuff up there. And check out HaHaForHire.com. Keep up with the crew. Come out, check us out. We start doing shows again when they open up outside again.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Thank you so much, buddy. We really appreciate you.
Man.
Thank you, fellas. This was great, man. I appreciate the opportunity, man. You guys are wonderful.
Yeah,
Stay safe out there, bro.
Yep.
No doubt. Be safe.
Later.